Hi everyone, this is Andrew Gibbons. I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner in New York City, and I'm on the staff of the IOPS Academy program that Jeff Haller is starting in New York City this fall, and I've had the pleasure of mentoring with Jeff for the past 7 years. In this video, I'm going to show you how to see the link between ideal organization and profound strength through some of the sit-to-stand material that we teach in the IOPS Academy. And we'll also get a chance to look at some source material of Dr. Feldenkrais working with one of his clients at Amherst, where you'll see how Dr. Feldenkrais uses this particular image of the ideal to help his client. So let's start things off with a brief demonstration on the sit-to-stand that Jeff gave in 2014 in New York City at a workshop for practitioners called Finding Self-Organization Again and Again and Again.
So if we look at where she's sitting, we can see that if we come to the center of her shoulder, she's actually sitting behind her sit bones. Yeah? So she's already sitting behind her sit bones. So she's actually sitting more back on her sit bones so that her shoulders are coming back. And most people actually find that this is where the sit bones are, and very few people actually find what it's like to sit on their sit bones. So that the anterior part of their sit bones. And this afternoon we're going to explore this as to the value of this, because this has a lot to do with how we can be really stable and support ourselves. Yeah? So when we're here, it's different than when we're here. Because the ability then to slide our sit bones backwards and up is what gives us the ability to make this standing movement. So that the pelvis comes back and up. Where's one of those white rollers? When you listen to this lesson that Moshe gives, if you read it, he says tilt forward. Right? So obviously tilt forward means that, doesn't it? Where's the center of mass going if I'm tilting forward like that? Where's it going? It's going forward, isn't it? If you're going to land in such a way that your center of mass stays over your feet, tilting forward has to be done in a funny different way. Something has to tilt backwards as something moves forward, which means that we end up sitting on a completely different place on our sit bones. So the tilting means that what happens with the center of mass. The center of mass, something tilts forward, but something tilts back, and the center of mass stays the same place, right? Because if it doesn't stay the same place, then we've already, just like the lesson we did before, we've engaged the musculature in our back when we start to roll forward. Yeah? The same lesson when you start to reach toward the table. You bring your forward part of yourself forward. And the weight of your head and shoulders, your lower back and your hamstrings have to become engaged to keep you. So therefore, they're not available to really go all the way. The same thing is here true. I'm trying to get up. So you can see that if I take the center of mass and I keep my center of mass in the same place. So that means for her to actually find a different place on her sit bones to sit, which means to actually sit on a place where her sit bones actually provide her a little bit of the ability to go forward and up. So if she's going to stand from there, her sit bones are going to have to continually glide backwards as her head goes forwards so that she can come up, which she does actually very nicely, right? And if she's going to come back down and sit, the same thing has to hold true, that she has to have her sit bones sit back and her knees coming up to her so that she could actually keep this control of herself, so that she could actually come and keep the control of herself so that she could sit.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It's okay. Because it puts you in such a different place over yourself. Now your feet can engage. You see, there's your heel. Now you can have your heel be the source of you coming away from your heel. Yeah?
Yeah.
But you are pushing into your heel and then coming forward the rest
there's a difference between the idea of pushing into your heel or having your foot so well organized and all the elastic forces so well organized that it's as if you're coming away from the floor. And it makes all the difference in the world in your experience. Because if your experience is to push into the floor as opposed to come away from the floor, the whole organization, the whole experience of it is completely, completely different. The internal sensation of it. And the degree to which, as we go along, we'll find the degree to which it provides a quality of stability within ourselves. Yeah?
What are you doing?
Well, see, the thing is that Moshe was a judo man. I have a long background in Aikido. And the last thing I would do if I had to fight someone or had to take care of myself would be to get up in such a way that my toes came off the floor. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. I'm going to get up in such a way that I can move and have my foot on the floor, right? Her toes don't get off the floor when she does that. You watch very carefully. When she's completely organized, her center of mass is now sitting. You could drop a line from her center of mass between her feet, and she can go there, she can go there, she can go up, and she can have the floor come back to her. She's a sumo. Right? And you see how beautifully organized her knees are over her feet, that she's touching the outer edge of her fourth toe there, and it's a huge point of support for her. Now, if we take this another step, and I actually turned her sustentaculum talis for her, she would lift herself. She would just float up.
Yeah.
Right? So I can control how fast, you pay attention. I can control her going down and up. And down, and up.
That's where the control is.
And I have, when she's tuned in, she'll pay attention, the whole neurological picture is there in the very way that that support is given. Yeah, very nice.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought I was getting
Your
it
name is-
earlier.
yeah.
Tamala.
Tamala, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So you thought you were getting it earlier?
I knew I was coming up into something earlier, but I knew I hadn't gotten there.
You haven't
So
gotten all there.
now it's almost there.
Okay. Well, you'll be like all of us. It'll all be almost there for the rest of our lives.
Now here's me at home working on the sit-to-stand lesson, and you can see that I'm sitting on a roller and how easy it is for my sit bones to fall back, just like they did there. Here they kind of roll up underneath me, and it makes it very hard for me to go forward to get up. I start to push my knees forward, and that ends up rounding me and driving my head backwards. Instead, what we're looking for is a way to take the sit bones back away from the knees to help bring the spine forward and up and bring the weight out over the feet so that you can get that equal and opposite action for the lift. Now, here we see Dr. Feldenkrais working with Ronald, also sitting on a roller, and in this lesson, over and over and over again, he works on this particular function with him, getting him to learn how to extend his pelvis around the legs. And he does this in a variety of ways throughout the lesson. You'll see him sometimes keeping the knees still, holding them still while helping Ronald roll the pelvis forward around the legs. Other times, he actually pulls the knees forward to help propel the pelvis forward. And other times, he actually drives the knees backwards. In other words, taking the legs equal and opposite to the torso coming forward. Now, this is obviously a very difficult thing for this man to do. He's had his spine severed in an auto accident. He's been in a wheelchair for many years. But Feldenkrais is tireless throughout the lesson and is just quite single-minded in what the lesson's going to be about. And over again, he has him stabilize himself by holding on to Feldenkrais' shoulders, and he just gets him familiar with getting up and around the legs so that he can use his hip joints. And here he is actually pulling his knees forward several times to get things going. It's not the ideal, but it really helps to mobilize his pelvis.
For a poor, weak back, it's not too bad.
Now, Feldenkrais really pioneered the use of rollers, and one of the advantages of a roller is that it has a very small slice of real estate on which to support yourself, and it's unstable, it rolls. So if you don't have your sit bones organized well, like here where I sag back behind, you can see how the sit bones point at the knees and the middle of the back points back behind the base of support. This pulls the head down, and sometimes you have where people are trying to initiate movements forward using their lower back, and that does something else a little cockeyed to the rhythm of things. We want to use our pelvis so that the sit bones glide away from stable knees, so that the knees are a stable base of support, so that the whole rest of the action can unfold from there. Here we can see it a little more close up where my pelvis is on the roller and it's fallen, my sit bones have actually fallen behind the base of support of the roller. And this is what Ronald is dealing with in the lesson. Instead of sitting with his sit bones right up on top of the roller and initiating from there, instead what happens is that because he sits back on his sacrum, his sit bones are actually tucked up under him and make it very hard for him to propel himself forward and up. But what's more ideal is for the sit bones to be able to glide back inside the skin of the buttocks to stay up on top of the roller as you lift. Now, another great thing in this FI with Ronald is that Dr. Feldenkrais takes the time to demonstrate for him. He brings a roller and sits on it himself and takes the time to show and explain to Ronald exactly what he's looking for as they make the movements. He's very, very clear to show him that what he's trying to get him to do is to glide his pelvis back, to glide the sit bones back as his spine is going forward.
On this field, this, you already did this. That back with the head coming forward. So the small coxes go back, but the head and the foot touch. In other words, look, that's the movement. Can you feel it? You did it. For the right side, you did it already. Before you didn't. And that's why the legs were spastic. I'll show you what you did before. Before you did with that leg what you do now with this one. Watch. When I ask you to move backwards, you do this. It trying with that move, that actually the roller goes forward. What do you want to do? Now, what you want to do is this, look. Move the back of the pelvis, look, and you going your way, and my head and shoulders are going forward.
Now, this is a very satisfying moment to see Feldenkrais demonstrating this particular organization, because I've watched Jeff teach this precise kind of organization in his curriculum, both with clients and practitioners and with me over and over again for the past 7 years. And he's been through it in regards to how the foot supports it, how the knee supports it, how the ankle supports it, how the hip joints support it, the relationship with the head and the neck, the back, all the way up through. But it's so satisfying to see Dr. Feldenkrais showing his client so explicitly this particular thing. And he uses it in every single lesson that he gives. You can see it's just so basic to his organization of how he gets around the client, how he reaches, how he supports the other person when he's working with them. And of course, every time that he rises from the chair or lowers himself down into it, this particular component is absolutely fundamental to everything that he does. And it's just simply hidden in plain sight, but here he is explaining it.
Now look, watch me do it now, look. I do this, and go forward with everything. Look, that, exactly what you did with that leg. Now, you can do it the other way around. You can still do, you could do this. Look, and look.
Now, when people read about IOPS or they come to the website and they hear that IOPS stands for Ideal Organization and Profound Strength, they often ask, what do you guys mean by profound strength? What do you mean by ideal organization? And so for me, profound strength obviously comes from a more ideal organization. banal strength comes from just willpower, effort, but profound strength really comes out of the integrity of the skeletal support that you get and your ability to really maintain the relationships that support you in the action well and allow you to distribute your effort evenly throughout the whole of yourself. So here I am holding a resistance band that has about 100 pounds of resistance built into it, and it's attached to the foot locker. And with my sit bones on top of the roller and really sort of adhering to the principles of a more ideal organization where I create the equal and opposite by gliding the sit bones back, you can see that I can really control myself getting up given the resistance. But if I falter and I allow the sit bones to tuck under me, you can start to see how it compromises my ability to lift myself and to deal with this heavy pull of the resistance band. So you can begin to see how a more ideal organization is useful both for when it's just my own body weight as well as for bigger loads and greater challenges. So here I am now picking up a 20-pound kettlebell, and you'll see that rising up to stand is done with essentially the same organization that I did for just lifting myself without any weight, and the way I lifted myself having to pull against the 100-pound resistance band. You can see that again, if I falter and the sit bones get tucked under me, it's more difficult for me to lift the weight and to generate the proper support to come up easily. And as I've studied this perspective, this ideal organization and profound strength perspective more and more, it's really been a pleasure to see how the greater challenges, here I'm holding a 35-pound weight instead of a 20-pound weight, the greater challenges require greater precision, not necessarily greater willpower or greater effort. And you can use the weights to actually help find the holes in your understanding, and these things can become a study rather than just a workout strategy or an exercise challenge. Here's a 50-pound kettlebell. This is a much bigger weight now, and you're going to see me probably have to lean quite a bit farther forward, but I did okay. And you can see how my knees, again, the hinging at the hip joints allows my knees to stay directly over my feet. And again, that allows the weight to be supported no matter whether I want to take it up by my chest or down into my feet. The ideal organization serves me in each one of those. And when I fall off the back like this, boy, with a 50-pound kettlebell, it really becomes difficult. Or if I try too hard in my lower back to arch forward my lower back too much without the sit bones doing what they need to do. So here it is again. Now, not everybody likes to lift kettlebells, but if you can give a good piggyback and still take care of your skeletal support and your counterbalance and be able to be comfortable, then it's possible to really enjoy your life and to enjoy your kids. And when people ask me why I do Feldenkrais, I used to talk about injuries I'd had in the past, but ever since those have really cleared up, mostly what I talk about is the ability to enjoy my family, to enjoy playing with my kids, giving a piggyback ride, and not worrying that I'm going to injure my back and knowing what I'm doing. You can also see how this organization is a preparation for jumping as well. Now here we got a little more creative, and we're using the resistance band so that they can hook me up like a sled dog, so that we can see how my organization gets affected when I'm having to pull weight forward. And remember, I'm still on the roller. Okay, now just resist enough to prevent me from moving, okay? So as I start to move... Alright, now watch. Wait, don't start pulling yet. Now I'm going to set myself up different. I'm going to be back here. Now this time, I'll go slow, but you guys just prevent me from going forward, okay? Different starting place, huh? Yeah, now watch. I'll put myself here. Wait, don't start yet. Don't start yet. Don't start yet. Okay. Now I'm gonna use myself differently, and you just slowly resist me. Okay. Here I go. Okay. Now I'll do it a different way. You ready? Just slowly now. Ready? Okay. Good.
Backwards.
Good. Exactly.
Backwards.
Oh, okay.
Gibbons.
Oh, okay. Now I'll use myself another way. Ready? Okay.
Backwards.
So you can see how much fun it is to come up with different ways to test your understanding of the organization and find out which parts you've mastered and which parts you have yet to really understand. And of course, there's a real pleasure in taking yourself through each of the successive approximations, going from the resistance bands through the kettlebells and seeing how each constraint, each challenge forces you to clarify your image, to clarify your understanding of what the ideal would be in each situation, so that you can begin to look at some of the source footage of Feldenkrais in these FI lessons and see how he takes his client from earlier in the session, from this level of functioning, to this.
Take the hand away. Take it away. Put it back away from us. Now, that is like day and night from what you did before. Take it away. Look. Put it on. Anybody will see in the picture, see that you do it like a healthy person. You know how you did it before? I don't know.
So once you're able to understand more clearly and consciously what it is that you're doing and how you're doing it, you really know what you're doing, you can of course start to do what you want. You can take these functional components out of the ATM lesson world and take them into the gym, and you can lift weights with an understanding of how to really do it safely, so that you're able to get the support and the power from your legs up and through your back in a way that's not creating damage in the very activity you're hoping will protect you. And then from here, the real black belt practice for me is to be able to take this stuff into your everyday life, into the most basic and mundane activities. Here I am alternating between having a kind of decrepit posture, loading the dishwasher, which I'm sure I did for 35 years, and really understanding how to take my sit bones back each and every time a dish goes down. Every time I take a dish out to put it up in the cupboard, I understand how to counterbalance myself efficiently. Here's another activity that's pretty much daily in my house, which is picking up things that I or my family have left on the floor. And you can see that there's a way of doing even something as mundane as this and having some idea of how to take the sit bones back and maintain the support through the heels as you go down. It took me a long time to recognize this as a way to practice my self-organization. Here's my best guess of how I used to do it unconsciously as I went around and picked up stuff off the floor. Every time my heels coming away from the ground, or my back rounding, my squat having to be such that I went onto my toes. It's hard for me to do it like this anymore because the other way feels so much better. In the end, the ideal organization is something that should be flexible enough and clear enough and immediately available enough to you that you can call upon it for whether you're lifting a 50-pound kettlebell or just a dinner plate with a peanut butter sandwich on it. The best thing is to really have a daily practice where you bring these principles into your everyday life. You can eat your meals sitting on a roller and begin to see how to really make yourself comfortable and efficient in the most basic everyday activities that you do.
Would you like some pepper? Would you like some salad? Oh my God, you want salad?
Because this is infinitely refinable. Yeah? That's the beauty of this whole process, is that when we play with the very nature of the process and we're really looking for this very, very refined sense of the support, it's exquisite. We'll play with it. It doesn't stop. It's like turning your attention inward, paying attention to the details, and it's like honing yourself, like a fine Japanese sword, where the ore is taken from a poor grade of ore from a beach. It's heated, it's folded, it's beaten, it's heated, it's folded, it's beaten, and eventually 10,000 times later, there's something that's so keen, so sharp, so durable, right? And that's what we're doing with this process, is continually, like in our own personal forge, turning our attention to these details so that we have a profound sense of self and a profound sense of ennobling ourselves, to be, to express ourselves more clearly.